Well, hey everyone, thanks for looking in and seeing how things are going here at the old Motor Go Yo YouTube channel. And today I thought I'd get out on the bike a little bit. It's a Sunday afternoon and it's a dry day, but it is very overcast. There's a lot of humidity in the air, so it's just nice to jump on the bike and get some wind blowing over the old extremities and chilling out and having a bit of fun. I'm not as yet really that far into the ride. I'm just about sort of 5 minutes in from where I live, and I'm just going to go on a couple of hours tootling around, nothing special, nowhere in particular. Going to head out to New Miller Dam and then probably head out sort of Doncaster-y kind of way on some of the nicer roads, and that is going to be it. I was going to go to Scarborough initially, but then I remembered that I had my Tesco shopping being delivered today, smack bang in the middle of the day, and I'd forgotten all about it, so I couldn't do the Scarborough run because, well, I suppose I could still do it now, but it would mean getting back late into the evening, and I'm back to work tomorrow after a week off. So I thought, well, I'll keep it simple and just go for a runabout and grab a coffee and stuff en route, see how things go, and if I'm enjoying it and the weather stays dry and it stays warm enough, I might stay out a bit longer and go somewhere else. You never know. It's kind of one of those days, one of those trips that you've got to do every now and then just to get yourself out of the house, because with work and life, with commitments of various kinds, it's very easy to get stuck in too often. And I've been kind of continuing playing games on Xbox, trying to find out what's going on in that community, watching how streamers do streaming, what looks to work and what doesn't, try to sort of pick up a bit of statistical analysis and a bit of observational analysis of how certain people are trying to run and develop their streaming careers as the ones who want to go into it professionally, and some of them are being very successful and will be on the road to success, I'm sure, but also it's a struggle as well for some people, and I guess they're learning the ropes of just general business, and it applies to streaming as well as everything else in quite the same way as it does for everything else. So in addition, I have been watching YouTube and in my spare time that I've had this week, not that I've had a great deal of spare time, and I've been doing a lot of stuff on eBay. I've sold about 3.5 grand's worth of stuff so far on eBay, and I got probably about the same again value wise to sell, but actually the first sort of 3.5 grand was across sort of like 5 or 6 items, maybe 7 or 8 items, and as the list goes down from those big ticket items down to the smaller items, then you've got to sell more to get the same amount. So I'm probably selling 3 or 4 times as many things to get the next sort of 3.5 grand. So still got loads of stuff to do on eBay. It's not exactly the kind of thing you really want to do, but rather than just letting the money go to waste, letting the stuff go to waste, I might as well sell it on. I always do it at a good price so people get a great deal, and the stuff I sell is usually in absolutely excellent condition because I buy it and within no time at all, quite often I'm selling it. I sort of test it out, see what it does, and then sell it. So I sold things like my Mac Pro, and I sold my drone and various other bits and pieces. So those are a couple of the things I've been up to. What else have I been doing? Yeah, I've been watching YouTube. One thing I always wanted to do, I learned how to fly fixed wing aeroplanes many moons ago, and I did that for about 5 years, and then I won't say I got bored of it, but I got kind of more into the motorbiking stuff, and that started costing me money, so I couldn't really justify directing money at flying and riding motorbikes, and motorbikes won at the time just because they were more interesting to me. But what I want to do as I start thinking about my early retirement, I'm still 5 years away, but as I start thinking about my early retirement, I'm kind of thinking, what could I do to occupy me, maybe to make a few quid, I don't know, it's probably unlikely, but just to have something fun to do. And all sorts of ideas have gone through my head, from could I afford to move to the States and buy a little kind of house on the hill somewhere, and with that, to get about, I've been thinking about flying helicopters. And flying helicopters is what I've been watching a lot on YouTube. Now, the cost of learning how to fly helicopters here in the UK is phenomenal. I mean, I might be wrong with this, because it's very hard on some of the local schools' websites to work out exactly how much per hour for instructed helicopter flying lessons in, let's say, a Robinson R44 or 22 or something like that is, but I am guessing somewhere around £300 an hour, I think, must be. Might be even more, don't know. But if that's the case, then you're talking about a minimum of 44 hours flying to get through your license. I think it's 44 hours, 45 hours maybe, from what I've read. And when I was learning how to fly fixed wing aeroplanes, that was like, instructed was about 128 quid an hour, and to hire the aeroplane, depending on which one it was around about 95 pounds an hour. So I think the price of things have gone up. Obviously helicopters are more expensive to maintain and to buy and to look after, and to run presumably for fuel and stuff, so I can understand why it's more expensive than the original aeroplane lessons were. But as far as should it be £300 an hour, well, maybe it should, but it's a bit expensive to afford that. You know, if I was doing even, well, you'd really want to be doing, wouldn't you, to get up to 44 hours, unless you were going to do it over a lifetime, you'd want to be doing a couple of hours a week minimum, so that would be like 8 hours a month. You'd really want to get it all done and dusted in a year, wouldn't you? So you'd really be kind of talking about, let me think this through, so if it was 44, let's say we divided it, let's say we did it in 4 months, that's going to be like 11 hours a month at £300. So that's like, what, oh god, get my head around this, it's about 3,600, is it, a month? And then you've got other things like your class 2 medical, you've got your various bits of equipment like your headset to buy, and maps and charts and logbooks, and your license to go for, and your radio telephony license, and all those bits and pieces you do as well if you're doing the aeroplane stuff. Applies obviously to helicopters too. So a lot of money, you know, a lot of money. Probably talking somewhere in the region of about 20 grand, I would imagine, to get a license. And that's just to be able to fly the thing privately, that is. And then the helicopters themselves, well, there are lots of different kind of lower end helicopters available. I think there's one called a Cabri, one called the Robinson R22 or an R44. Probably the one I would want to get would be the Robinson R44, but the prices of those second hand, the price of those I think new is, I think, about something like 350 to 400 grand, and the price of them second hand is kind of in, with still some years to go on them, it's probably 200 grand plus. So we're not talking cheap stuff here. You know, you could buy a house for that, small house albeit, but you could buy a house for 200 grand. So a lot of money. And as always with these things, when you look at the price of, if you are building your hours or learning how to fly in the States, I was looking at some schools in Florida, and they're charging in dollars, they're charging probably somewhere in the region of about half the price in dollars, but then of course with the exchange rate it's even lower again. So definitely getting a bit of a hit in the UK with the prices of learning how to fly. So it is, you know, more than me just saying I might think about buying a bike, where I've kind of thought it through and made a decision. Bikes aren't cheap either, but this is like, you know, 10 times that kind of value just to well, is it 10 times or 20 times that value if you're thinking about the cost of actually buying a helicopter. Some of the bikes I buy are about 20 grand a piece by the time I stick accessories and things on them, and for a helicopter you're sort of talking, what, 15 times that to get a second-hand one that's got some hours left on it. Now if that wasn't enough, and so learning how to fly one and then buying one, you've obviously got to keep it somewhere. And if I could afford to get somewhere in the States, then I suppose everything will be a little bit more affordable depending on what area I move to, of course. Then I would have the helicopter costs and the maintenance of it, the insurance and all of those things, which as I understand is very expensive. You're talking probably about $10,000 insurance in the States. God knows what it is over here. Annual maintenance costs, so I think 12 years they have to have complete overhauls on them, which replaces all the rotors and things and God knows what, but I think they're about $25,000 to do those. So very, very expensive running costs, maintenance costs and insurance costs. Fuel is very expensive too, and you've then got, on top of all of that, you've got the cost of where do I keep it, you know, where would I keep something like that. And I've been watching a YouTuber called Flying M Air. Her name's Maria Langer. She runs a small business, I think from the northwest of the States, I think somewhere north of Seattle, if my memory serves me right, because I've watched quite a few of them. And in that area they're growing cherries on the hillsides, and she, as part of her business, together with other people I think she employs to work for her, using helicopters, they dry those cherries off, so they fly up and down these orchards just above the treetops for like hours on end, and when it's been wet their job is to go and dry the trees and shake the cherries and get the moisture off them to protect the cherry crops. And not that I would want to necessarily do a business type thing like that, but just the fact that she gets out of her house, just goes outside and jumps into a helicopter and literally, you know, does the startup procedure, and within like 5 or 6 minutes she's just lifting off and flying off where she wants to. Goes to the airfield every now and then, fairly local airfield, and refuels, but generally speaking she is out and about a bit like you'd jump in a car and go somewhere. So pretty good stuff, I think. Pretty fun looking stuff. And I realise, like, you know, with everybody who says motorbiking is dangerous, I suppose flying helicopters too can be dangerous. So a lot of food for thought, but massively expensive, and would put a big dent in my finances if I were to go there. Probably, quite possibly mean I couldn't retire as early as I wanted to, probably have to work for another 2 or 3 years, so probably have to work for 8 years rather than, and then you've got the sort of, well, do I want to enjoy any of my life away from work? Because work is so, and these days in particular, so demanding, requires so many hours of your time, you end up with very little left to do the things you want to do. And when you get time off, you're that knackered, you don't want to be spending it doing anything really other than sitting down. So that was that. So YouTube, flying helicopters, gaming on Xbox continues, and the other thing that I've been doing, because I've had this trapped nerve in my neck now for a couple of years, probably longer, is I've been to see a new physiotherapist now, and he's doing a lot more sort of manipulation of my back and my neck and twisting my head here, there and everywhere. I'm going to go with that for 5 or 6 weeks, see how that goes, see if that helps. He's talked a lot about posture, and I'm trying to keep more of a straight, upright kind of neck position. Of course, working with screens and things at work means you sit in a bit of a kind of leant forward position quite a lot. Even if you get the chair right and all the rest of it, you're still not quite in the best of positions. So I'll try his advice, try some of the exercises that he's suggesting. We've been stuck in traffic quite a bit here, haven't we, today? It's not been very free. I suppose I could have done a bit of overtaking in places, but I've just been rabbiting onto you guys. Motorbike wise, am I happy with the Multistrada 1260S? Absolutely. It is still a fantastic bike. It's, what has it done now? It's just done over 3,000 miles since I got it last, what was it, last August I think. So it isn't even a year old quite yet, and it's only got like just over 3,000 miles on it in a year, which is very low mileage for me, mainly because I've been working and the weather's been a bit up and down in the earlier part of the summer. I don't know if we're going to see a benefit, an improvement to that in the next part of the summer. Let's hope we are, and we'll get some more riding done, get some more miles on her. But yeah, very pleased with it. It's the right combination between agile and comfortable. It does a bit of everything. It's kind of like a nice upright seating position, so you get the comfort of that, you get the view of that ahead, you get the agility of the bars, a bit like you do with the Multistrada SP that I had, and you also get a fantastic suspension system that isn't kind of ragging you about all the time. It really does give you a really smooth kind of magic carpet type of ride, and even over bumps it handles them really well. I mean, this, yes, it's going over bumps now, but it really is just chilling out over those bumps. Hard to explain, but really nice. So really happy with it, and we'll absolutely be keeping it for at least another year into next year, and possibly even get just another one, because it has nice power. I think with it being a Ducati in red, I think it, you know, it doesn't look as kind of sleek as sports bikes, but it's got a nice kind of aggressive look to it with the black carbon at the front. And overall, it's the best bike I've had. So definitely going to be keeping it for another year. Definitely would buy another one. Definitely would recommend it to other people. If you haven't test ridden one, don't think it's a big slouch of a bike, because it might look big, but it isn't. It certainly goes, and it's certainly stable. Lovely machine. Anyway, that's enough I think from me for this little video. Thank you very much for watching. Hope if you're riding bikes, you're out there getting some of the sunshine when it does eventually appear. If you're not riding bikes, or whatever you do, take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.